Okay. Jai Hind all of you. I am Dr. Aditya Pratap Singh from IT department of Akgec Garg Engineering College, and today we are going to discuss the loops in C programming language. The C programming language is base for most of the programming languages. That's why it has been taken in the first year of BTech program. So I thought that I should start with some key concepts of C programming language. So let's start with the concept of loop in C programming language. Okay, so this class is basically for the students who has already started doing some programming, and they want to have some kind of revision for loops in C programming language. So I'm going to start with the control statements. These control statements are basically the statements which leads to the different path of execution for a program. When we start executing a program, or when we start writing an algorithm, generally we move forward one statement, then next statement, then next statement, or step 1, step 2, step 3 for algorithms. But in case of programming, sometimes we require some kind of decision. If this condition is true, then I want to go this way. If that condition is true, then I want to go another way. So that's why the C programming language provides some kind of control statements which can change the path of program execution as per your requirement. So one kind of statements are decision making statements, where we give conditional statements, and another is looping statements, which require some kind of repetition of execution of statements again and again. So for the problems where we require, so like the problems which we require, where we require lots of repetition of statements, in such cases these kind of loop statements are very much important. And there are many problems where we require a certain set of things to attempt again and again. Like a loop statement is used to do some operation for a number of times until some condition is true, because there is always necessary that we want to stop our repetition, and that stopping is generally made on the basis of some condition. Loop is in the programs allowed to repeat a block of code. So whatever we will write inside the loop block will be executed again and again, and then depending on the condition given in the loop statement, it will get stopped. The loops are here which can change the forward moving direction of control flow. With the help of loop, we can change the direction towards backward, and this control is imparted by some logical conditions. Like if I ask you to write some name or your name 100 times or 10 times, then what approach you will take? I hope you will take an approach of loop rather than writing the printf statement again and again. So if it is for 10 times or 20 times, that may be one feasible solution. But in case of the number of repetition increases like 100, 1000, 2000, 10,000, then in that situation you need to have a logical concept, that is loop. So So we have already discussed that loops are useful for counting. Like we want to count something, then we are repeatedly doing something, so and we are counting that part. So another is repetitive activities, like you want to print your name, like you want to add number and next number is being added to previous number, such kind of thing. Like we want to find out the factorial of a number. So in that case we are again and again multiplying the next number to previous factorial. Like you want to do some sum of natural numbers, in that situation also you need to do repetitive task. If we want to write that programs that never end, like I must know that all of you have visited to some ATMs, and those ATMs are generally running a program. You start transacting, you complete the transaction, and it again comes back into previous condition and waiting for the next user. So such kind of program you can write using some loops. I hope all of you are aware, or most of you are aware, that there are three kind of loops available in C programming language. One is for loop, that is generally called counting loop, or whenever the number of repetitions are known in advance, in that situation we use for loop. While loop is a loop where only condition is given in the loop, and it is also a pre-test loop. Pre-test means, like if I am talking about pre-test loop, anybody, if any one of you know, you can write in chat box. What is a pre-test loop? Pre-test loop means we are checking the condition before entering into the loop. So that means before doing anything we are checking that condition is true, then only I will do that. Another loop or a different loop, do while loop, is there, which is post test or bottom tested loop. That means we are not checking any condition at the time of entry into the loop, rather we are performing a condition check while we are exiting to the loop. Like for example, we have written some menu driven program, and at last when one execution is complete, at last it asks like do you want to continue. If condition is true, the program again moves from the beginning and start executing the same statements again. If you say no, I don't want to continue, then that program will exit and system terminates. So such kind of loops are there. I hope one thing you can write in your chat box, like if I say which one is entry controlled and which one is exit controlled. Any one of you can write in the chat box which one are entry controlled and which one are exit controlled. Okay. So for loop is the for loop, and while loop both are entry controlled loop, whereas do while loop is the exit controlled loop. Here, like because of this feature of computer, we also name computer as machine, which can do repetitive mechanical or logical work for us. Like if we human do some kind of repetition again and again, then after a certain number of repetitions we start irritating, we start doing mistakes. But in case of computer, it will do the same task again and again without any problem, without start giving errors. Okay, so let's move forward. Let's try to understand the for loop. So for loop is a very popular loop in most of the programming languages. It is a pre-test loop, and its syntax contains three parts. For loop has three parts. First part is initialization of the loop. Like we can have some variables which we want to initialize before entering to the loop. So in that situation, the first part of for loop, here we can initialize those variables. Then continuation condition. The second part is the important part, which checks whether the entry to the loop is valid or not. Whether if the condition is true, then control will be allowed to enter the loop. If condition is false, then that control will not be allowed to enter to the loop and comes out of the loop. Another is loop increment or decrement. So loop increment and decrement performs the increase or change or manipulate the variable which we initialize in the initialization part, and depending on this change or manipulation made, the continuation condition will become true or false. And here can be multiple statements inside the loop. This will be what? This will be compound statement. I hope you all know that what is a compound statement. May somebody answer what is a compound statement? Any one of you? What is a compound statement? I didn't get any response from your side. What is a compound statement? Basically, compound statement is a combination of multiple statements enclosed in a curly braces, which we use in case of if or loops. So this for loop is commonly used when the number of iterations are known. I hope you know that what these iterations mean. Iterations means one single execution of the loop. When control enters into the loop and performs the compound statement and again comes back to check the condition, so that one single execution of loop is called iteration. So here is the flow chart for this for loop. We initialize some statements, we check conditions, and then this body of the loop is executed if the condition is true. Then increment statement will be performed and then we come back. So this backward direction of the control statement is only visible through loop statements, and if again condition is checked, if the condition is false, then it will be stopped. You can see here that for loop has three parts, and out of these three parts, the first one was the initialization of variable or initialize the loop. So that initialize the loop part means that this part will be executed only once. It will not be executed again. Continuation condition and increment decrement will be executed in each iterations. That we will do such kind of work in the coming slide, and try to understand how this for works. So this, like I want to print 1 to 100 numbers using a loop. So what we have studied, that first part is the initialization part. So we will initialize n is equal to 1. We are having already, we have declared a variable n. So first part will be n equal to 1. Next part will be the condition. So condition, we want to print up to 100. So we will check whether n reached to 100 or not. So we are going to print n up till it reaches to 100 and then increment or decrement. In this part we will perform one increment to the n. Like here we have written n equal to 1, that is initialization, n is less than equal to 100, n is equal to n plus 1, that we are incrementing the n value, and for each n, for every n we are printing that number. So you can see every number is being printed, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 up to 100 we are printing. So you can see here the use of for loop. Just by writing a single statements we have printed 100 numbers. So that is the benefit of a loop. Like if I want to have sum of natural number using loop, so can any one of you can describe in the logic, describe the logic in the comment box or chat box, that how can we perform sum of natural numbers using loop? What we need to do in the loop? What do you require? We require one number, that up to which number we need to sum those natural numbers, and natural numbers, for these natural numbers we start with the 1, 0 is not counted as natural number. So we will read one positive number and we start from 1 to n. This condition is just checking 1 to n, and then we will increment decrement. So we are incrementing this I, and what we are doing, we are just adding that number into a variable sum. We have taken a variable sum which is 0. So this sum will be added to this number. So this index or I is being added to this sum every time. Now I want to write a program for factorial of a number. What is a factorial of a number? Factorial of number, like I want to take a factorial of 4, then 4 factorial of 4 will be 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So that is a kind of a repetitive task. That means if we start multiplying, then the result of this will be multiplied with 3, the result of this whole will be multiplied with 4. So what we do, we will start a loop from 1 to less than equal to n and increment, and we will calculate the factorial of a number. Here you can see like what we are doing. If, for example, if I have taken 3, n equal to 3, in this situation what will happen? For initial I equal to 1, what we will do, factorial value we have initialized with 1. So we are multiplying, that means this is factorial equal to factorial into I. So what factorial will become? 1 into I, the I means 1. So factorial will become 1. For I is equal to 2, what we will do? Factorial is 1, so 1 into 2, result will be 2. I equal to 3, what we will do? That means next is 2 into 3, that means 6. So this is how we will got up to the finding a number 6, that is the factorial of 3. So if any one of you wants to perform any specific simple program in this, you can write in chat box. So now try to understand this for loop in more detail. For example, like this for loop is having one initialization, one condition and one increment. So how many times which part is executed? If I say I am executing this loop for 10 times, then how many times this initialize will execute, how many times this condition part will execute, and how many times this increment or decrement part will. So let's try to understand how this for actually works. So for this purpose, what I have done, I am writing some statements along with the necessary things. Like for initialization part, I have written I is equal to 0 and I have used one printf statement. This printf statement will be executed whenever control comes into this initialization part. For this condition part, I have combined this printf condition with our required condition, that is I is less than 5. How this is working? What is the job of this comma operator? Can anybody say what is the job of this? Is it allowed or not? Is it allowed or not? Can anybody say some about this? Like I is equal to 0, and then we perform the initialization. So how it will work basically? Here this comma is the operator which combines two statements. So in the single part of for block, in the initialization part, we have combined two statements. One which is initialization, which is initializing I equal to 0, and another printf statement which is just printing something, so that we can come to know how many times this initialization part is getting executed. Here in this condition part, what I have done, I have written one printf and I is less than 5. So this is what? This is a AND operator for adding two conditions. So this value and this value, I is less than 5. How this can be used? Can anybody explain? Can anybody explain how this can be achieved, or what this printf will return? What this printf function returns, can anybody say? I am waiting for your response. What this printf function returns? You are, I think some of you are already aware about the C programming language. So let me see. Please tell me what this printf statement return. So my question is basically, what printf returns? Okay, nobody is there who knows what printf returns? Okay, I thought that you must know. Printf returns the number of characters printed. Condition and Spur says that it returns condition and spaces. No. Printf simply returns what number of characters it printed on the screen. So here it will return 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and new line character 10. So it will return 10. In case of C language does not have Boolean kind of data types. That means there is no data type of like true and false. So can you tell me what refers to true and what refers to false? I am waiting. What refers to true and what refers to false? Okay. So in case of C, this 0 refers to false and non-zero refers to true. So what will happen here? This will return 10, and so that means it is returning a statement true, and we have taken true and I is less than 5, whatever condition we are having. So this condition will become the decisive condition. So our for loop will work correctly. That means whenever it becomes false, so if we will take true and false, so it will become false. That means it will not create any issue for our for loop. And here we are performing increment and one printing just to check whether we are going to how many times this increment is going to execute. So let's check this on performing a compilation for this. So if we will write the same code here, what we can do? We can take this code from here. And we have simply put it here. Now we are going to compile this code. If we want, if I'll compile this code, what is going to happen actually? These every part of for program will tell us the print statement which are used in this for loop will tell us how many times these part of for loop are executed. So let's compile this program, and we have got the output. So let's check this initialization is printed once, then condition has been checked. That means it is what kind of loop it is? It is a entry controlled loop. That means before entering to the loop, the condition will be checked. So condition is checked, and then 0 is printed, then incremented, again condition is checked. You can check that we are not going to initialization part again. So on every value increment, then condition, increment, then condition, increment, and then condition. These are being checked. So you can count actually. This increment is executed on this initialization is executed only once. Condition we have 1 increment 1, condition 2 increment 2, condition 3 increment 3, condition 4 increment 4, condition 5 increment 5, condition 6. So when condition is become false, we will come out of the loop. So condition will be checked 6 times because condition was initially checked also, first time when increment was not done. So with this you can easily understand how this for works. This is going to be executed only once and these will be executed multiple times. Okay. So now if I want to print a table up to 10 in the form like 2 into 1 equal to 2, 2 into 2 equal to 4, in this form if I want to print, so what program we can write using for loop. So this is the program. Here we have taken enter integer whose table we are going to print, and this will like I is equal to 1, I is less than 10 and plus plus I. So this is the value for which we are printing the table, and this is 1 ja, 2 ja, 3 ja, 2 1 ja 2, 2 2 ja. So this will be the value of I which is being incremented in for loop, and this is the result, the multiplication of n and I. So it will print the table in this form. You can easily understand. So one concept is nested for loops, or any loop can also contain the same loop within its body. So this nesting we can perform whenever we are writing a loop and we use the same loop inside the body of that loop, that is called nested for loop or nesting of loops. So here for creating such kind of pattern, or for creating for using matrix manipulation, for performing 2D array manipulation or accessing, we would require nesting of loops. So here to print this, there may be a function like for I is equal to 1, I is less than equal to 5, because we are the first is for rows. This first is loop is for number of rows, and second loop is for columns. So here we require 5 rows. So we have taken a for loop starting from 1 to less than equal to 5. That means it will run for 5 times, and here we are only using this new line. That means it is only for changing the line. Now in this column we are writing what is required. So like in first row we require only 1 number, in second row we require 2 1 in decreasing order. So we have started j with I is the nth row, and here j is greater than 0, j minus minus. So we are decreasing every time. So like for first row 1, for second row 2 and 1, so it is decreasing, 3 2 1 it is decreasing. So these are being written, these columns are being written with the help of nested loop, and the outer loop is for rows. The same thing is followed in case of 2D array manipulation. So these are some caution for using for loop, like sometimes we get confused, I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, that means it 10 values starting from 0 to 9. If we will write like this, then it will become 11 values and it will go from 0 to 10. So such kind of errors sometimes we make, so we should not perform such kind of errors. Here I is equal to 1, I is less than 10, so we started from 1 and less than 10, so that means only 9 values. Such kind of errors we can perform, so we need to be more careful while using these for loop. Now come to the next entry controlled loop, that is while loop. In case of while loop, we contain only condition in the condition we use with the while. The variable which will control the entry and exit of that loop will be initialized outside the loop and increment or decremented inside the loop. So that we need to write here condition, only one part is along with the while, that is condition. For is having 3 parts, while is having only one part, that is condition. So we write some statements and manipulation of the variable which is controlling the exit of this while loop. So this is the syntax for while loop. So in case of while loop, it is used for operations like some condition till some condition is true. So let's do the same programs with the while also. Here is the one flow chart for while. We checked condition. If this condition is false, we will come out of the loop. If condition is true, we will perform these compound statements given in the while loop and come again. So this backward movement is only possible through loops. So the same program to print first 10 natural numbers. Last time we have printed 100. So what we need to do, we just need to use a variable outside the while loop which will control, and here we are only checking the condition, and in this condition what we have written, x is less than equal to 10. We have started from 1 because we are working on natural numbers. So we started from 1 while x is less than equal to 10, and we are simply writing, and this is the statement which is changing the value of x, which will lead to the condition changes. Whenever this x will move to 11, condition will become false, and we will come out of that loop. So the same program, sum of n natural numbers, which we have done through for loop, is here also with the while loop. In case of while loop, we need not to initialize inside this, rather we are doing initialization outside the loop, and we are just checking the condition with while loop and performing sum plus I, and this is a separate statement for increment or decrement that we are using in while. So for adding these numbers, we are just incrementing this with plus I leads to I equal to I plus 1. Here is a interesting program to check whether the given number is palindrome or not. A number is said to be palindrome if we see from forward or backward, the sequence of digits should be same. If the sequence of digit is same, then in that situation we can say that this number is a palindrome. Like if say 1 and 2, so if we will see from forward 1 2, from backward 2 1, so it is not a palindrome number. But if we say 1 to 1, then you can check from either direction, we will get the same sequence, that is 1 to 1. So this number will be called palindrome. Now we need to convert this logic into the programming part. I have taken one number n, some reverse number and original number which we have taken, and we started original number. In the original number we have stored n, and if n is not equal to 0, then we are getting the remainder of this number and we are adding it to another number, that we are creating a reverse number. So we are creating reverse and original, and later on we will check if original number is equal to reverse number, then this number is palindrome, otherwise it is not palindrome. Last one is do while loop. So in case of do while loop, it is a post test loop or exit control loop. In this loop we started and we do not know condition. Unconditionally we enter into the loop because it is not a entry controlled or pre-test, and we execute loop body, and at last we check whether this condition is true or not. If it is true, then we again enter into the loop, otherwise we come out of the loop. Then, so in case of this kind of statement, what is compulsory or what will happen? Can anybody tell? Like in case of exit control loop, the loop will be executed once, at least once in any situation. So this is the difference between while and do while loop. In case of do while, the loop will be executed at least once. At least once it will execute. So we can see one example for printing first 10 multiples of a number using this for loop. So here a is equal to 5 and I is equal to 1 we have initialized, and we performed here print this number and perform I plus plus, and at last we are checking that we are moving up when I is less than equal to 10. Whenever the condition fails, we will not enter into the loop, rather we will come out. So it will print the multiples of 5. So it will print 5 into 1 5. Next time I will be incremented with this, it will print 5 into 2. So such kind of work we can perform with the do while loop also. I have already said in the beginning that the programs like do you want to continue, so such kind of thing we can do using do while loop. So I think that's enough for today's session. If some of you wants to discuss anything, if you have any doubt related to for, while and do while loop, you can simply write into the chat box. We can discuss that doubt. I am waiting for your response. We have done for loop, we have done while loop, and we have done do while loop today. I have discussed the whole working of for loop, how many times each part of while loop are getting executed. Sometimes this kind of questions may be asked in your viva or in your placement interviews, and we have discussed while and we have discussed do while loop, that is exit control. Two, for and while all are entry control. So any one of you wants to have any question or any confusion, you can simply ask me in the chat box. Otherwise we will conclude the session. Okay, so thank you all. We will continue learning C programming language in coming lectures. I hope you got the basic idea of using loops. In the next lecture we will discuss more statements or things related to loop and decision statements or control statements. Thank you all.